Teh Tarik with Walid doing overtime for democracy, but it's a once in 5 years thing, so it's all worth it. Welcome everyone to episode 118 of Teh Tarik with Walid, and today with me we have a young superstar in the online media scene, and he is an upcoming, a potential, he is a candidate, depending on whatever happens tomorrow, candidate for the Singapore Democratic Party. So I will accept his request and we'll see. He's Ariffin Sha from the Singapore Democratic. Hi
Hi.
Ariffin.
Hi.
You can hear me well?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me well?
Yes, very well. So thank you Ariffin for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
I always thought I would interview you, just not in this capacity. Never, this came out of nowhere.
Yeah. I mean, life.
Like, okay. You're too young to be speaking like that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. Ariffin, so
Mhm.
let's get to it. And I think Wake Up Singapore it has revolutionized, I think, the media scene in Singapore. I don't say that lightly. And Wake Up Singapore always shares my posts. I love it. So I love Wake Up Singapore. And I think I genuinely mean this, Ariffin. I don't think anybody has done more for the Palestinian cause in Singapore than Wake Up Singapore. So, and you know, that's my soft spot. So I am eternally grateful to you for that.
Mm.
So I like the work you do online and so on. You know, and usually that's really a way to soften the difficult question that's coming up.
Of course.
So
I was just waiting for that, brother. Yeah, it's too nice for too long
so
already.
so why are you contesting against PM Lawrence Wong? So I like you. Why don't you come to Tampines? Why are you going up against someone who's also likable, somebody I also like, and I think a lot of people probably want Lawrence to do well, want PM Wong to do well, even if they are not too happy with the PAP. So my worry is if he doesn't do well in his constituency, then people will say, look, I told you you shouldn't be this open and this friendly and so on. So I'm sure you have thought about all of these things, right? So why Marceling UT? Or maybe you disagree with my assessment.
Mm-hmm. No, I think it's a very fair assessment. I think his approval ratings are off the charts, right? And it's no surprise that he's very popular amongst all demographics, right? And I
Yeah.
think, as a matter of principle, I think nobody wants to unseat the PM, right? Or rather, see the PM unseated. Yeah. Uh, I just saw the comment. Sorry. Uh,
If Walid
yeah.
had his way, he would call everyone to terminate. Well, not the current parties that are contesting.
Yeah, I think it's because of Walid there's going to be a five corner fight or something like that now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think, okay, I mean, as far as the SDP is concerned, right? They have contested Marsiling UT for the past two general elections. So in that sense, it's just a natural extension of things. Of course, in the past two elections, Lawrence Wong was not the PM yet, and this time he's the PM. So that's one difference, right? And I'm sure that will weigh in the mind of voters. The other thing is SDP is adopting this, what we call the Northern Strategy, right? And long story short, what it is, it's a hedge against gerrymandering. So the idea is, look, if Dr. Chi is in Sembawang West, we have a team in Sembawang and Marsiling UT. I mean, generally, it's the areas that they've been working for at least the past 2-3 elections, right? No matter how they redraw the boundaries, you still have some hedge against that. And then it's the same way where, in terms of geographical expansion, it's natural for WP to expand in the east, PSP in the west, and SDP in the north. And coming back to Marsiling UT, that's why I was quite clear in my introduction speech, where I said that what matters is not just who wins, but the margin of victory. Yes, he is the PM, and yes, in all likelihood, rather, he will win. But the other thing is that, yeah, Vanan, I see your comment there. Yeah.
We'll address the comments. Don't worry.
Yeah. Yes, but what we want to do is to show that, look, a mandate must still nevertheless be earned, right? And just because it's the PM, it doesn't mean that everything is okay. I think people still need to exercise their democratic vote. and to voice out for any issues that they feel that the PAP should look into. Because let's just put it this way: winning by 80% and winning by, let's say, 60% are two very different stories.
Agreed,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah. So in that
You'll
sense,
get the same number of seats, but it has a very different connotation.
yeah,
100%.
yeah. And I'm not just saying this because I am in Marsiling UT, but I firmly believe that, the smaller the margin of victory, the better the policies and the welfare for the people, right? We have seen the policy shifts after 2011, after 2020, and I think that speaks for itself. So really, I think it's the idea for voters to be able to have the option to send a message.
Right.
And I think
Okay.
what we want to do ultimately is to give them that choice. And I think the statistics speak for themselves. Every sitting prime minister, with the exception of one in GE 2006, every sitting prime minister has always scored above 70%. During Lee Kuan Yew's time, even like 90%.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we know what we're going up against. Yeah.
Okay. So anything more than 30% would be a victory for you personally.
No, no, I mean, let's see. I mean, we try not to have targets and stuff like that. I mean, our mindset, I mean, within the SDP, within the team is very clear. We go in there, we fight a good, hard, clean fight, right? And we focus on our policies, focus on our campaign message. And these policies, this manifesto is drafted by many experts over many years, right? So these are the things that we want to campaign on, to focus on. And at the end of the day, whether or not voters, whichever way they vote, we hope to be able to be able to serve them, even if it's not in parliament, but at least
Right.
to use the platform that we have to advocate for these things.
Okay. So there's a comment here: losing to a PM is one thing by Saravanan. Losing your deposit is another. No, they won't lose their deposit. So even at the height of Taman's popularity, he got 70 plus percent, 12.5%. There's definitely 12.5% in any constituency unhappy at anything. So I don't think that will happen if it's not a three-cornered fight. And even if it's a three-cornered fight, it's a smaller party, you won't lose your deposit. So we have other questions on Dr. Chi and so on. But
I
thank
hope
you for
that's not.
that. So
Yeah,
Ariffin, so basically you are contesting to play the long game.
I guess you can say that. Yeah, and today it might be Lawrence Wong, tomorrow it might be someone else. As in, the position of the office holders is not part of the decision or the calculation. It's more of the areas we have been walking and the areas we've been serving. And I mean, I can share this, right? So what I was very pleasantly surprised that 80 to 90% of I would say about 80% of the volunteers that we have on the ground in Marsiling UT are residents themselves. You know,
Right.
these are not like people who are parachuted, and these are
Sons
people
and
who have been,
daughters of Marsiling UT.
yeah, I guess you can say that, yeah. And these people, they're honestly so hardworking and brilliant. So I mean, as a candidate, we're just the front line, but these are the guys doing the hard work day in, day out. Yeah.
Ariffin, out of curiosity, what is the ethnicity you're contesting
Oh,
under?
myself, okay, so I'm Indian Muslim. So just for fun, right? I mean, uh, in the, I mean, I think the designated minority for Marsiling UT is a Malay, right?
Correct.
But I just wanted to
Yes.
see how the process works, and in case of any things, so I did apply for an Indian certificate, and I got it, lah. Yeah. So
Okay.
at least I know where. Yeah. I mean, I speak Tamil. I learned Tamil in school and all. Yeah.
Do you speak Malay?
Not really. Yeah. Little
Okay,
bit.
so definitely you would be more Indian than
Yeah. Yeah.
Indian. Yep.
Mm.
All right. Okay. So for sure. So I'm Indian Muslim as well. I unfortunately do not speak Tamil, unlike my late father. So the next question Zia asked, and which is what I wanted to ask as well. Why the SDP? Why not WP? I saw
Mm.
you together with Pritam, just the two of you, at the stadium.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah, was that to throw people like myself off or?
No, lah. I mean, if anybody, we're hoping to throw Vietnam off that night, but
Didn't work. It didn't
yeah, it
work,
didn't work, man. Yeah.
unfortunately.
No, it worked for about 90 minutes, and then the last two goals came in. Yeah.
So why not WP? I think if you had contested under WP, your chances would be much higher, right? Or did you
Mm-mm.
have such conversations with Pritam? Can I get a scoop today?
No, no. I don't think we ever had those conversations. But I think for the SDP, it's always been about consistency over time, right? And I say this not just because I'm formally with the SDP now, but over the years, many years, you have seen them speak up for issues, especially when it wasn't popular. You know, for example, after policy shifts, it's very easy to say, "Oh yeah, this is correct, this is right, this is a step in the right direction." But it's very tough to advocate for things when they are no longer popular or not even within the the range of acceptable opinions. So in that
Right.
sense, like I mean, the other day, just to do a bit more research on my own, I bought this book of Dr. Cheese. Someone was selling it on Carousel. You know, so Dare to Change. It was written in 1994. And in that book, it's a good book, small little book with a lot of policy proposals and stuff like that. And in that book, I think Dr. Chi advocated for many things like which the government of today have adopted. You know, things like abolishing streaming in schools, more equitable wealth distribution, more of the government's budget being allocated for welfare. So things like this, I think, yeah, to put it shortly, is the consistency over time that attracted me to SDP, and we all know the SDP, the stuff they have stood for over the years, and I think
So
personally that's what attracts me. Yeah.
Pritam isn't leftist enough for you, basically.
No, no,
That's
no,
what
no.
you're
I'm not
saying.
saying that. I'm not saying that. No, as in, I think that in a political space, right, we all play our part, right? And SDP is part of that. You know, natural. Like for example, even in activism, right? Some
Yeah,
people believe things to be done a certain way. Some people
yeah,
may not
yeah,
agree with wake up and stuff like that. But I think it's that the idea of all of us taking a multi-pronged approach and see
yeah.
what sticks. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's important to have this. I think SDP definitely adds something to the political scene. I would say PSP as well.
Mm-hmm.
Add something because it gives people different options. And in fact, I would say the dynamics of parliament would change quite significantly if one SDP member comes in. No, we already see
Um,
the dynamics of parliament changing with the PSP
mm,
coming in as NCMPs. Do you think
mm.
there's a chance of that happening? A realistic
I,
chance of,
I mean, I most certainly hope so. I think that I mean, of course, the star. I mean, in a team, right? Like, I think Mustang. I mean, SDP is fielding 11 candidates this round. Eh, 10? Yeah, 11 candidates. So it's really a football team, and our star strikers are Dr. Chi and Dr. Paul, right? For Dr. Chi personally, I feel quite sad because he has been working the ground in Bukit Batok for the past 9 years.
indeed.
And then we all know what happened, right? Then he had to go to Sembawang West. So it'll be very tough, but I think day in, day out, sometimes multiple times a day, right? Early on, we also helped with some of his house visits and all. His team is really tireless. And I think a few days ago, he announced that within that short period of 3 weeks, they have actually knocked on every door in Sembawang West.
Wow.
So I think that's quite impressive. And I mean, I honestly think that Dr. Chi has been one of the most misunderstood and vilified men in our political landscape, and I hope the residents give him a chance because, like you said, if Dr. Chi gets into parliament, you will see how things shake up, right? And then similarly, Dr. Paul Tambaya, I mean, I don't think anyone needs to say anything because we all know how brilliant he is. And more than the brilliance, I think he's very humble and he's very witty, which is
Yeah.
hard to find these days. Honestly, like he can give you a joke, and then it's honestly like I think Singapore will be
Can
genuinely better off with these two people in
can
parliament.
I say something about that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Since I think maybe there are SDP people around you as well.
No, no,
I
there's
do
nobody.
think doc
There's nobody. I mean, an empty room.
Okay. I think Dr. Chi needs to be more like that. Dr. Chi
Mm,
needs to lighten out a little. I feel like he's always so serious. I understand everything that he's gone through, right?
mm,
Um, I had him on before, and we had a lovely conversation, but he wasn't laughing at any of my jokes. I
oh,
felt
yeah.
like it could be a me problem, but also
Right,
I
right.
do think that he needs to be just a little bit more light, a little bit more
Mm,
easygoing.
right,
But
right.
I understand. But you are right. I do think that Prof. Tambaya's appeal is precisely that.
Mm.
Um, you think that will happen, Bukit Pan?
I certainly hope so. I think really, I mean, look, I think the role of an MP, right, is basically two areas. One is to take care of the town council. I
Yeah,
mean, just make sure your trash is cleared and things are nice, some sheltered walkways and stuff like that.
right.
And I think in that aspect, right, I think every party will be able to deliver. When I say every party, I mean the big three, lah, right? It is now a question of the next one, which is can they represent the voices of the constituents in parliament? That's what we should be looking at. But sometimes I think because of the state of the political education, I mean, I'll share something with you. So I was having a conversation with a resident the other day. So he was talking to me about the Marsiling UT town plan that Mr. Lawrence Wong and his team have prepared. So I think it's part of the town plan, or I can't remember the exact specifics, but there was something about two MRTs being built within the next, don't know how many years. So he was quite surprised to hear that, regardless of who becomes your MP, the MRTs will continue to be built,
Yeah,
right? Same for many projects around many estates. These are things which HDB have announced. I mean,
yeah,
MRTs will not built overnight, like, they will.
yeah,
So things like this, I think, really we need to go to the ground to explain to people, to speak to people, and these are one-on-one conversations that unfortunately social media will never reflect. And
yeah.
even these one-on-one conversations, it doesn't happen immediately because sometimes it takes a few conversations for them to even open up, or to be honest with you, to say that, look, how about the MRTs? For them to even say that. Yeah,
Correct.
so it's these little things that will affect how people vote. So I think in
Yeah.
that sense, we need a lot more greater transparency and political education.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my friend Angie, I don't know whether you know Angie, the cartoonist. She's brilliant, and
Yep.
she
Yep.
she said she wrote something recently on her Instagram about,
Okay.
I can't remember who is one of the, whether it was Eng Chiming or something, walking and then say, "Oh, I noticed that there wasn't
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
or what." Then Angie said, "Why is it that only they walk about during elections, then they notice all these things? I thought they
Mm-hmm.
were supposed to be walking. They were supposed to have been walking around for the past 5 years already. Didn't they notice this? Didn't they
Yeah.
notice needing umbrella or whatever it is?" And I think we
Mm-hmm.
should be asking those questions. We should be
Mm-hmm.
asking those questions. So absolutely. So
Yeah.
okay, the next question, another potentially difficult one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have built, I think, enough credibility as independent, right? And of course, you are anti-establishment. Wake Up Singapore is anti-establishment.
Mm-hmm.
So you have developed that image. But don't you think that your credibility now as a journalist goes down the drain because
Mm-hmm.
you are associated with the SDP? What do you think?
Mm. Yeah. So I mean, this is something that I've been thinking about, and I think it's not. End of the day, I think it's quite complimentary actually. Because okay, let's be frank, lah. Okay, Wake Up Singapore since day one, we have never claimed to be objective, right? We were very clear where we stand on certain issues. From uh, Palestine to whether migrant workers should be transported to Malaysia or not.
Oh, Ariffin disappeared for a while. But Ariffin, oh, am I the one who's being, am I the one who disappeared, or is it Ariffin who disappeared? Please
I
comment
don't know.
if you can. Oh, Ariffin, you went away just when you were about to criticize the PAP, we lost you.
Oh, right, right.
We lost you
Yeah.
at migrant workers.
I see. I see. Yeah. So I mean, for Wake Up, right, it's basically issue based, right? And it just so happens that today, most of the issues that we stand for are more aligned with the opposition. But tomorrow, if the PAP says, "Look, let's ban the transport of migrant workers on the back of lorries," we will be the first to support. Yeah,
Hmm.
and it's very clear. And in that sense, this whole idea of having alternative voices, alternative spaces, and I think it's just a means of the advocacy, and it's a natural extension, lah. So I mean, people may have their views, they may form their opinions, and I completely respect that. But what I ask is simply judge based on the content itself, not so much who is behind the content, right? And that's why, I mean, I've been always reluctant to put my face out because I don't want, I want the content to be clear. As in, whether you agree, whether you disagree, whether we have made a mistake and things like that. The idea is, look, I don't want people to agree with me, but I just want them to reach informed decisions.
Hmm. So for you, there is no conflict of interest. It's actually complementary.
I mean, yeah, personally, I don't see a conflict, although conflict of interest is a lot of times perceived. It's like, you can't spell partisan without BA, you know? So, so I mean, for me, I just see it as a natural extension of the advocacy. The things I stand for remain the same. The things we stand for remain the same. Yeah. And
Okay.
then we will continue to use our voice.
Okay. Can.
Yeah.
Thank you. So another difficult one, perhaps. So you have been charged. You have been
Mm-hmm.
charged, right? In
Yeah.
fact, there was somebody who said to me, like, why are you having no joke? This person said to me, why are you having a criminal on your show? Like,
Mm-hmm. You
and
should tell him that's the reason you haven't invited Pritam.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So that's exactly what I said to him was, should I not invite Pritam or? And then he said, oh no, 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 that's different. But anyway, so
Yeah,
you have
yeah.
been charged. So
Mm-hmm.
how what were the lessons that you learned from that? Because that must have been a painful one. And I imagine that Wake Up Singapore did recover from that, I think, pretty fast.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I can imagine at that point in time you were worried about the credibility of Wake Up Singapore, how it will be perceived.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. So, I mean, that incident now happened like more than 3 years ago,
Yeah.
right? I mean, long story short, I knew someone who was actually pregnant, right? So maybe I was a bit naive. There were things I could have done better. I completely accept that, right? But the naive part of me just believed that someone who's actually pregnant would never lie about the death of the child was still
Yeah.
alive and kicking in their stomach. But that being said, one of the lessons we learn is really don't trust anyone because
Yeah.
anybody can lie, right? Um, about anything, honestly. But the more important lesson that I've learned is that, look, um, we need SOPs in place, we need protocols in place, right? But the immediate steps that we took was as soon as we found out that we were lied to, we apologized, right? And a few hours later, I think the very next day, I published a blow by blow account of exactly what happened, what documents, this, that, the correspondence, including things that we should have done but we didn't do, right? We published all of that, took full accountability, responsibility. Um, 2 days later, the POFMA came. But by the time the POFMA came, all the posts were already taken down, so it's just a matter of compliance. And 2 years later, plus minus 2 years later, we got charged in court. And similarly, right at the outset, I made it clear that look, I'm sorry. A mistake was made. I take full responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the woman also was eventually charged.
Yeah.
Um, we paid the fine. But one thing that I think, and I was just talking to our team and all, like one thing that we people don't actually realize is that we have been quite vocal about social political issues since, right? And honestly, and this is me being completely honest, at that point of time when that happened, I was very close to just shutting it down, right? But I said that look, actually no, shutting it down is the easy thing to do, right?
Right.
What will be harder is to try to win back the trust, win back the support, get out there and continue advocating and just be out there in the arena. And one thing I can say is that in the 3 years since, right, although we have been talking on many social political issues, we have never received another POFMA.
Yeah.
But I have to caveat it by saying that no protocols are foolproof, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So POFMA sometimes, we all know lah. But
Yeah.
but I think the very, very interesting thing is that sometimes in life when you look back, that's where you realize that some things happen for a reason, right? And I can say this, if it's not for the fact that the KKH incident happened and the protocols, SOP, everything that we learned from that, 9 months later, we would not have been able to break the SPH circulation scandal story.
100%.
Yeah,
You
so
guys were the ones that broke that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So and it's precisely because of the lessons we learned the hard way, unfortunately the hard way, lah, right? That we learn how to tackle that story. And it's such a difficult story because honestly, at that point of time, SPH was not replying to us. I mean, right now I heard there was a police report file came out in Parliament and all. But I can frankly say that if that didn't happen, we would not have been able to break the story with
Right.
yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So there's a question here by my sister Siti. Do you think not treated fairly, then it doesn't seem that you think that you accepted that whatever happened, it was your fault.
Mm-mm.
No, good on you. Good on you. And
Mm-mm.
there's a question, there's a comment. Thank you for not shutting down the Wake Up Singapore. And honestly, as I said just now at the start, the Palestinian thing you guys have amplified.
Mm.
Your own voices, the Palestinian voices, even people like my voices. So thank
Definitely, yeah.
you. Thank you for
It's
that.
honestly the least we can do. And I feel that it's a, I mean, it sounds cliche, but genuinely we feel like it's a duty. And what we feel is a shift in the narrative. I'm not sure. I mean, I want to ask you as well, if I'm allowed to ask questions.
Please.
Surely you do see a shift in the narrative and a shift in the language from the time of October 2023, right?
100%. And I see this narrative shift in the government, but also in the
Mm.
people. I've seen this.
Mm.
In fact, very early on, right? And I think, but I because you follow the news, I very closely, even closer than I do. So I know that you know this that very early on, Minister Shanmugam, you already saw that he was saying stuff that prior to 7 October, I never imagined any minister would say, you know.
Mm.
And so that narrative has continued. I think now not just him, other people have said
Mm.
as well.
Mm.
But you
Mm.
saw that shift, Karen. And I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
again, if there's no demand, there's no supply. This is standard. This is
yeah,
standard
yeah.
politics, right?
And
And we want if people say, "Oh, the government is just reacting because of elections and people are making noise," but yeah, that's what elections are for.
mhm.
We want
Yeah,
governments to react to what we are saying, right?
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think even there's been even a shift in the media reporting, right?
Oh
Because
yes,
what we have seen is
definitely.
that certain terms that they use, and
Correct.
then people, because of how they have been looking at how Western media has been reporting
Yeah.
about these issues, they start commenting on CNN and Straits Times and say,
Yes.
hey, why are you angling it this way? Why are you using this choice of words and stuff like that? And
Yeah.
then even in the media space, I do see a shift.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. And I saw even more shifts in the past 1.5 months in the media in terms
Mm,
of the
mm,
headlines and so on.
definitely.
So
Yeah.
so that's great. And thanks to you guys.
No,
Mainstream
no, no,
media
no, 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 no,
forces
no. No, no. It's thanks to you, thanks to everyone, bro. Yeah, yeah,
everyone. Yeah,
yeah,
but
yeah,
I think
definitely. Yeah.
your platform has been important. But this question honestly doesn't deserve to be asked. But I've seen people taking pot shots at you so many times. So I think we just deal with this for 1 minute or something, right? How would you respond when people say, "Oh, this Hamas sympathizer"?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen some of the comments, right?
Yeah,
And honestly, I think we have been very clear about our position. And I think the only thing I can say is I make no apologies for speaking up on Palestine, right? I mean,
yeah.
the same way, if there is a crime against humanity anywhere in the world, we will speak up about it. So I don't think it's fair to conflate, sympathy for the cause with other stuff, lah. Yeah.
100%, 100%.
Mm.
And a lot of people do it willfully, right? And then they will ask, "Oh, do you support? Do you condemn this?" They are doing it willfully because they do want to conflict the
Mm,
Palestinian
mm,
cause with the with Hamas, right? Which is why I was very against, still am very against the mainstream media using Israel-Hamas conflict.
mm,
To be
mm,
fair to them, they have used less of it. I still see it sometimes, but
mm,
it's
mm.
more rare. So okay, let's move
What
on
I
because
mean,
that's yeah.
just
Please,
honest,
please.
yeah. So just an honest question, just thinking out loud. So this is something that I also sometimes struggle with, right? Because I was looking at the WP manifesto. I think they refer to it as the Israel-Palestine conflict,
Yeah,
right? So I mean that's better than Israel-Hamas, right?
yeah,
So I mean, of course, we all know it's a genocide, right?
yeah,
Let's make no mistake about it.
yeah.
But in terms of reporting, and what do you think is the appropriate term to use?
Yeah, so I think it's okay if the mainstream media doesn't use genocide. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah,
okay
that's fine. Yeah, yeah.
because the ICJ hasn't given a definitive ruling now. But
Mm,
if they want to be factual, I think they
mm,
should at least say like no the plausible genocide because every article, right? Almost every article they'll make some reference to October 7,
mm,
right? Or this is because of October 7. There'll be some reference somewhere. Then I think to be fair, you should also make reference to the fact that there's a plausible genocide and that preliminary ruling has been given already by the ICJ. So I think
mm,
it's
mm.
okay if the media doesn't use genocide.
Yep,
But
yep, yep.
Israeli-Palestine conflict or Israeli-Palestine war, I understand it's not a conflict in the way we understand it. But I
Mm,
think as journalists, maybe they have neutral standards, whatever it is. But you can
mm.
still be factual.
Within the report. Yeah.
within the report, you have to
Mm,
be factual. Not you can, you
mm,
have to be factual. So yeah,
mm.
I think that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's
So
really quite interesting to see WP include Israel Palestine in the many.
100%.
Yeah, so I think that's a
That
yeah.
that is also a shift. That's also, I would say, because of people, right?
Mm,
They have been talking about it, and that's why
yeah,
it has become an election issue. And you asked me 5 years ago, I couldn't have imagined
yeah, yeah.
Palestine becoming an
And
election
I think
issue.
there was a very interesting video I just watched about one of their candidates, Miss Alia Mata, when she
Right?
talked about why she
Yeah.
first stepped up. And then, yeah, I mean, please go
That
watch the video. Yeah.
that is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
She wanted to join because of the MOE CCE lesson.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that is something again beyond my wildest imagination just three,
Mm.
4 years ago.
I think in
So
political terms, you call it the overturn window. There's a term or something like that,
yes,
right?
correct.
Right,
Overturn
right,
window. That
right.
small window for action, right? Otherwise it'll be
Mm-hmm.
closed, right?
Mm.
Yeah. So I since we are on that topic, right? I think, well, not Palestine necessarily, but in terms of the culture wars, Wake Up Singapore is very leftist.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you are too woke to be a politician or too leftist? And maybe being an activist fits you more.
Mm.
Whereas being a politician, you need to be a median, you need to go to the median voter a bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, of course, we wear different hats, right? But just to correct, right? Wake Up Singapore was started in 2013, right? Woke culture came way later. So like there's a lot of people conflate Wake Up Singapore and woke. I mean, just so happens that the name coincides lah. Yeah. But actually, I mean, woke. I think we started hearing about woke like 2018, 2019, but Wake Up Singapore started 2013. But I think as far as the SDP is concerned, right, and you're right. So I think that is reflected in the SDPs manifestos, in terms of where they stand. And then honestly, I would invite anyone to please take a moment or two to read the manifestos, to even read the policy papers that support these manifestos. And some of these policy papers are honestly so complex, right? There are a lot of formulas and stuff like that. So there's been a lot of experts who lend their time and support over time to talk about these things, right? And in fact, this thing came up in a podcast I was doing yesterday, where actually SDP is probably one of the few, if not one of the only parties with a Malay policy paper.
Yes, correct. And
Yeah,
this
and I
has happened for a long time.
yeah
I
yeah.
I don't know whether you know this, but my first ever public talk was but at an SDP forum.
Oh wow, I
So
didn't know that.
yes, it was at SDP Malay Forum. So it
I
was in
see.
2013. So
Wow.
the speakers were PAP Kader, Mr. Halim Kadir, then the former MUIS President, Ma'ruf Saleh,
Mm-hmm.
myself, and then moderated by Vincent Vijay Singha. And Jufri Mahmud was a speaker as well. So I
Oh,
already knew,
that's a great
yes,
panel. Wow.
this was 2013, so that was my debut. And
Mm.
so SDP has always had that. So
Mm-hmm.
one of the things you can never criticize the SDP for, and to be fair, this is true of WP as well, is that they don't have proposals.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard this criticism still, and my question is always to those people: have you read the proposals? In fact, the
Mm-hmm.
SDP proposal is even more detailed than the PAP. Not that that is a slight against the PAP, because the PAP already are implementing the policies. I don't think they
Mm-hmm.
need detailed proposals or manifestos. But you're right. So SDP does have that Malay thing, but also SDP has a healthcare thing. SDP has a lot of
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And honestly, I mean, you just, I mean, there's some snippets from like other podcasts, and I'm sure your own podcast as well, where Dr. Paul Tambaya, when he speaks on healthcare policy, it is all lived experiences and policy
100%.
and empathy, So it really comes from a very different place, and it's backed by expert research, and
Yeah.
basically the math has been done, lah. Yeah.
Yeah. If Paul Tambaya speaks on healthcare, I listen. Let's
Yeah.
just put it there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was
Dude
quite
knows
funny. I
what.
mean, the other day we were on the ground in Bukit Panjang. So I think one of Bukit Panjang resident actually donated a lot of bread to Dr. Paul Tambaya to give out to the residents. So we're supposed to give out to a certain resident, and then we're just talking to the resident. Resident say, oh, actually, she's not well. She's having a sore throat or something like that. And just nice at the moment, Dr. Paul Tambaya walked past me. I was like, oh, he's a doctor as well. His
Where was
diagnosis
this?
was, yeah,
Bukit
go home
Panjang
and rest,
or
but you
Bukit
can
Panjang?
eat the bread. Bukit Panjang, Bukit Panjang. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, oh, you have to charge him. Yeah, you have to
That's right.
charge the rest. Okay, so do you think Singaporeans will wake up this election? There's a
Hard to say.
comment here.
Hard to say. Honestly, I feel that I'm terrible at reading the ground, right? 2015, I was helping out at the time with Jeanette in Mountbatten. At the time, I wasn't old enough to vote yet, so I was
Jeanette
just
Chong, yeah.
volunteering. Yeah, Jeanette
Mhm.
Chong. I wasn't old enough to vote. But you're old enough to volunteer. And actually, it's a funny thing. You need to be 21 to vote,
Yeah,
right? But at 18 years old, you can be a counting agent. And as a
yeah.
counting agent, you can adjudicate, you can help to adjudicate on votes. You know, say that, oh, this is actually a valid vote and whatnot.
It doesn't
But
make
long story,
sense.
yeah,
It
long
doesn't make
story
sense.
short, long story short, I don't think anyone can actually read the ground. At least not me lah. Maybe Eugene Tan can, but I can't. Because
What?
um,
Why do you have to bring Eugene into this, man?
is any political discussion complete without bringing in Eugene, man? No. So I mean, like that day, like like every time they will shake your hands. They will like the car will go past and beep beep, and then rallies will be well attended. I mean, you remember the 2015 rallies for WP. So I
Yeah.
think it has to be said that rally size does not equate to support. A lot of times people go to rallies sometimes to
For
be
sure.
entertained, to listen, feel show.
For sure.
But rally sizes do not translate to support. So I don't know whether Singaporeans how Singaporeans will go, but I do hope that they realize that having a more balanced parliament actually benefits Singapore and Singaporeans. I
Mm,
think that much is very clear. And look,
right.
even if WP wins West Coast and PSP wins, rather, say I don't want to mix them up. WP wins East Coast, PSP wins West Coast, Porter by Dr. Chi go in, right? It does not affect the government's ability to govern, to pass laws in any way. And I
You
don't
are
have the
right.
math. I don't have the
You
math right now, but they can still amend the constitution if it doesn't cross the one
No,
third
they
mark.
can.
So,
They can.
yeah,
So they 97 seats. What you need? What 64, 65. But
yeah.
but but um, it is it is not just about the pure numbers, right? It's also about the quote unquote moral legitimacy that comes with the numbers. So
Mm,
even if they have 80% of the seats, but their vote share is 58, 59. I don't think they can pass things as easy. Of course, legislatively they can do that. I
mm-hmm,
think procedurally they can do that, but
mm,
I don't think they can do that as easily without getting more backlash, even more backlash.
mm. I think that's honestly part of the democratic process. I mean, put it this way, okay? Whatever one may say about Ritam, Leong Man Wai, Paul Tambaya, right? We may disagree on policies, but no one can accuse them of not being a patriot or not having Singaporeans' best interests at their hearts. So if the
100.
policy process becomes more robust, debates take longer, I would say so be it. And I
I
mean,
agree.
if we talk about moral legitimacy, if you remember in 2011, uh, I think Tony Tan became president with 35% of the votes or
Yeah,
something like that. So,
yeah.
so where is the moral legitimacy? Is that I think that is more of an electoral reform question, which I don't know if we are ready for, but I think that the democratic process must take its course. And
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. I don't have a problem with that. So Leanne asked, so the comment section suddenly got excited when you mentioned Eugene, but I won't be reading out those comments. Leanne asked, do you think Gen Z is more politically aware? And
uh,
is it safe to assume that they are more liberal, there's less of a climate of fear, they are more critical of the PAP,
mm,
or at least they are less loyal to the PAP, even if they are not critical?
I don't think it's safe to make the assumption because honestly, these are the same group of people who are saying Daddy Wong. I'm sure that. Yeah, but one thing I do sometimes see is that they are being more straightforward, right? They don't have the climate of fear that much. I agree, but just because they don't have a climate of fear, I only think that it means that they are more open about speaking about politics, but not necessarily they lean towards the opposition or the PAP. Um, One thing I do find interesting is that they like to call things out as they are, right? So they're not too interested in like, oh, I come from a humble background or I can sing Hokkien songs or whatnot. No shade to
Yeah,
anyone,
yeah,
right? But they just want to know, look, stop your things and just tell me what will you do? Can you
yeah.
serve? What are you in it for? And I think was it Leon who first said it or Viswa? Basically, we need more conviction
Viswa
politicians.
said it, yeah.
Viswa, yeah, more conviction politicians, and it's funny
Less
because
TikTok
TikTok,
politicians.
and it's a TikTok generation that may not really like TikTok politicians.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree because I think people compartmentalize, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I like wrestling, for instance. I don't know whether you like wrestling.
Yeah. I mean, I was quite happy that my generation was John Cena, so I was quite happy that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
yesterday you've been very happy, yeah.
Yeah. I
I
was like,
mean,
wow.
I think John Cena is not fit to lace the Rock's boots. But okay, it's
Yeah.
fine.
No,
We
no.
disagree.
I mean, different generation. Different generation. Yeah.
Different generation. But
Yeah.
you know, so I love the Rock. I would buy his merch and so on. I would never take his political opinion seriously,
Yeah.
right? So I think people can compartmentalize. So that's why as well people may like the idea of TikToks. They may spend a lot of time on TikTok. Doesn't mean they want politicians to dumb politics down, you know.
Yep.
And
Yep.
even if, and in fact, maybe I push back against you, even if they may do Daddy Wong, I am not sure whether that immediately translates into votes, or they would be quite happy with, oh, the way, oh, you can do that. And I think it's quite insulting to Gen Z, honestly. I think what, should I mention names? Like, there's
No,
this,
you just described the video. You will
okay.
roughly know. Yeah.
So there's this team, okay? I'll let Ariffin guess since he's very plugged into. There's this team that I haven't seen anything concrete from them other than cringe TikTok videos. And I feel that is doing yes, Labubu, correct, Isaac. One of the videos is Labubu. So I find that to be so insulting to younger voters,
Mm.
thinking that you can just do that and you can get votes from young people. So it's ironic the older person is actually less
Mm-mm.
critical of Gen Z than you are. I mean, I'm critical of Gen Z in many other spheres, but I think not in this particular one. So Kasim say, just say lah Sengkang. I cannot confirm nor deny that. But yes, you can check out the different teams, the different PAP teams and their TikTok videos.
Yeah.
But also, I don't think, sorry, Arifin, I don't think it's uniform across the PAP. Some do TikTok better than others, you know. They
Mm-mm.
do it for policy
Yeah.
discussions and so
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
Mm. No, I mean, speaking of the Sengkang team, I have to just put this out there. You know, looking at I mean, put aside the TikTok videos and whatnot, right? I
Yeah.
can personally say that I think I have a little bit more respect for Lam Pin Min compared to other MPs who are parachuted in. You know, at least he lost Sengkang, he goes back there to fight
Oh,
it.
because he stays there instead
Yeah,
of
he
going
stays there
some.
and fights. You know, it's like I think the only other time we've seen this is Sito Ipin Potong
Yeah.
Pasir. You know,
Yeah.
so I think in that sense, yeah, you know, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think I can stop there.
Yeah. So agreed. Although maybe someone like Victor Lai, he has contested a few times already in Aljunied, so I wouldn't put him in that category. But you're right. I
Yeah,
do
yeah,
I do think that, especially if in the past 5 years the PAP has rightly, I think, especially Chan Chun Sing has rightly talked about, you know, if you feel exams is not the end of the world, blah blah blah. You know,
yeah,
so
yeah.
and then
And
and then
it's come a
yeah,
long way from I can't remember which election was it in sometime in the 80s or 90s where they were comparing Mr. Cham Sitong's O level results
correct.
with
It
the
was in the
PAP numbers.
80s.
So
Lee
that is
Kuan
the
Yew
kind of yeah.
was doing that. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
you're right. They have indeed come a long way. So all right. What policy changes for you? So let's end off with this, the final few minutes. What policy changes would be a priority for
Mm.
Arifin?
For me personally, I think, of course, align with the parties, right? I think the focus really should be on uplifting those who are less well off amongst us, and to do it in a way that is honestly financially sustainable. Because one thing that, besides, earlier you said that one of the most common retorts is, oh, you guys have no policy. What's your alternative? You only criticize, but actually there is policy papers, right? Of course, then the next question will come is, I think that was a question Minister Vivian posed to Dr. Chi is, what's the total bill? What's the final bill? Who's going to pay for it? How are we going to pay
Yeah.
for it?
Standard
So I think,
question, who's gonna pay
yeah,
for it? Yeah.
yeah. And then sometimes if they're in the mood, they will go one step further and use the magic R word, raid the reserves. So I think in that sense, right, a lot of times it's not just the policies. I mean, as far as SDP is concerned, the individual policies are all there, they're all sustainable. But this time, if you look at Dr. Paul Tambaya's press conference and also the manifesto and the launch, they have gone one step further to actually explain how it is financially sustainable, right? I think that part is very important. And basically, we have to face this fact, at least in the near future. We can suggest policies, but we will never be able to be in a position where we implement those policies, right? So what's the balance is basically, I think we offer proposals, but more importantly, we offer broad uh, policy
Philosophies?
directions. Yeah, sorry.
Right. Philosophies more than
Yeah,
specific
yeah.
policies.
Yeah, and what I really want to see, and this is not a specific policy, but genuinely, I am concerned about the mental health of young people. Like this, even if I'm not running for elections, right? This is something I'm genuinely concerned about
Yeah.
because all around me, I look at people, and then sometimes you just have to pause and ask yourself, honestly, right? On a day-to-day basis, are you surviving or are you like, I mean, I don't want to bring the party slogan in, but that was the party campaign message. Like, are you surviving on a day-to-day basis or are you thriving? I think it's an honest question. And sometimes when you take the bus to work, you see the faces around you, and then at the end of a long day, you go back home and you barely have time for your family or hobbies. Today, in an earlier interview, I struggled to answer the question, what are your hobbies? Yeah. So this mental health issue, of course, not just limited to young people, even older people. And that really, honestly, when you go to a coffee shop, you see an elderly person cleaning the tables, or you read in the news of elderly people dying at home alone, and only a
Yeah.
few days later.
Yeah.
So these are gaps that I hope overarching policies and our general approach towards social welfare. Um, I don't think the government will ever admit it, but I don't think Lee Kuan Yew would have given CDC vouchers. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, right? But I don't think Lee Kuan Yew would have wanted that sort of direction. But in that sense, I think we do, as a society, see the need for greater wealth redistribution and more
Right.
equitable wealth
So you're
redistribution.
celebrating it, a departure from Lee Kuan Yew's philosophy.
No, I think like what you said earlier, it's about what the market needs, what the market wants, right?
Yeah.
So as in, you do know that look, people are struggling. Then, I mean, ideally, rather than give out so many GST vouchers, you shouldn't raise the GST in the first place. But I think that
Right.
ship
Right.
has sailed, right?
Right.
But there are policy shifts that we have seen that have been a result of advocacy, whether it's social welfare policies or even things like the Tudong policy and whatnot.
Yeah.
Of course, the advocates who have been working tirelessly will never get the credit.
Of course. And that's
Yeah,
fine. I think
that's absolutely
activists and
fine. Yeah.
advocates, yeah, need to accept that it's
Correct,
okay.
correct. Yeah, yeah,
It's
it's okay
okay.
because end of the day, it's the people that you serve, the communities that you serve.
100%.
As long as there's a tangible benefit there. So I mean, sorry, I went off track, but to answer your question, I just
No.
want to, and it sounds like because people like to say like happiness can eat, man. You
Yeah.
know, but honestly, I hope that through a patchwork of these policies and overall overarching philosophies and principles, to have a less stressful Singapore.
I don't know
Yeah,
whether you caught my live today, but I don't think you did because you also had another
yeah, sorry,
interview
I do. Yeah.
with Prof. Hussein Mutalib. And
Mhm.
his final thoughts were almost exactly the same as yours. He said Singaporeans are too unhappy and mental health amongst young people not good. So, and there needs to be changes in that. And he was saying radical changes in that
Mhm.
regard. But also the mental health of the young people. I am not sure how much of it is a function of policy in Singapore versus a function of technology in general.
Mm, mm.
So I am not sure how much. Of
From
course,
a
it's not.
policy
I'm
standpoint.
not saying
Mm.
we shouldn't try. I'm
Of
not
course,
saying
of course,
that because
of course.
ultimately you have to use policy to change behaviors.
Mm, mm,
But what can we do? Like Professor Jonathan Haidt, a psychologist from America, he's very
mhm,
radical. He says until you're 16 years old, don't have social media.
mm, mm.
Right? I'm not sure whether we want to be as draconian and give more powers to the state, right? So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Mm. Yeah, and I think it's true. I think it's a mix and match because like you have the pressures. I mean, of course, you got all these dangers with technology and all, but on the other hand, you do have the pressures of the education system. You do
For
have
sure.
peer
There's
pressure.
the
You know,
PSLE, yeah.
yeah, the PSLE, and then
Or even
just
young
like
people not getting a house. All
internship,
this.
job
Yeah,
market. And
yeah,
I think that's something that we can do. And of course, I think in a more direct way is to basically make mental health a bit more accessible, affordable, and more importantly, right? I think we should um, make it clear that it's not okay to discriminate when it comes to employment.
right.
You know, how many people are comfortable telling their employers that, hey, I have to go for
Yeah,
therapy?
yeah.
You know, so these are little things, and I completely agree with you. Not everything is down to policies and society. I mean, and the government, but these are steps that sometimes
Yeah.
it's a tango lah. Sometimes we
No,
take the first step or they take the first step.
that's a tangible policy change that we can do easily, right?
Yeah,
Easily.
yeah. So
Of
just
course,
just
it
baby steps.
requires changing work culture as well, but has to start with policy.
Correct.
Yeah.
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 Mm.
Okay. So I know I said last question, but I just remembered, so you
Is this
are a radical candidate. I don't mean that in an extremist way or but you are a radical candidate in terms of the spectrum, right? Um,
mhm.
which is why I was interested to know whether you had the conversation with Pritam because would you fit the WP brand
Mm,
as much as you fit the SDP brand? Because I think you are tailor-made for SDP, right?
mm.
Um, there is also another radical in SDP who has mellowed down, obviously, and that's Dr. Chi. And do you think I know it's very difficult for you to answer because I'm asking about the party leader and you are a new member, but 3 decades, Dr. Chi has been the SecGen. That's very long. Isn't
Mm.
it time for leadership renewal?
Um, I think. I mean, let's put it this way. I think if someone comes along who is as con con with as much conviction and um competence and honestly compassion, because I know sometimes it doesn't come across, it's all a serious face and all, but it's sometimes the little interactions that we have, right, actually makes you see that he does think, and he does make jokes lah. Just to clear the air. Yeah. He does make jokes. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Honestly, I think the party goes through a democratic process. Yeah. So if there are changes or leadership challenges or whatnot, I mean, the party, like the people here in the party, right? Some of them, like there's this, we call him Uncle Yong, Mr. Francis, right? He has been around since 1983. So we
Wow.
were we were just talking earlier. He's saying that at least, right, he had the opportunity to see SDP savor some victories. He was there when Mr. Chiang first won in 1984.
Right.
He was there when Cho Chai Chen and Lim Hao Dong won in 1991. So I think the party is built out of a very capable grassroots across the board, and if they have a good sensing to see who can best lead them. Yeah,
Okay.
and think that's how.
So Ashik
Yeah.
said, answered like a politician. You're ready, bro. Well done. Well done. That was I guess, the most difficult question of the night. So Ariffin, let's end on a conciliatory note. So just to reduce the perception of radicalism in you, who is your favorite PAP MP? Other, you cannot say Taman, you cannot say Louis Ng.
Yeah. Can I say? Can I choose two of them?
You can choose five also if you want.
Okay. So two, and it's quite interesting. And they're not PAP MPs yet, prospective candidates, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So the first is Mr. David Ho. I can't. Apologies, but I can't remember where exactly he's being fielded. But
I can't
actually,
remember as well.
yeah, in my secondary school, he was a relief teacher. So I was from First Toa Payoh Secondary School. Unfortunately, it's now defunct. And he was a
Oh.
relief teacher, and until today, I do remember the stories he shared. Right? So he was sharing about how I can't remember, was it a relief teacher or a trainee teacher? But I remember he
Mhm.
shared about how he, from a normal tech stream, worked his way up, and he wanted to be a teacher and things like that. So I think honestly his heart is in the right place. Um,
Okay.
Dr. Hamid Razak, I think the work that he has been doing for migrant workers, you can never. He comes from a very very good place, and
I agree. I don't know Hamid personally,
mhm,
but I do think he's quite impressive.
Yeah, and I think he's brilliant, and his Tamil is fluent. And
Yeah.
honestly, I think we need more good Tamil speakers. I'm quite glad that this round there were a few good Tamil speakers.
100%. The
Yeah.
Tamil speaking one is so
Hmm.
important. And Hamid Raza actually speaks Malay as well, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
Well,
he's,
you
yeah.
probably speak Chinese as well, man. It's really, yeah. So I mean, you can see the caliber there, and you can see that these people they come in with a good heart, and they don't need to make fancy videos or talk about
Yeah.
uh, humble backgrounds, etc. They just
Yeah.
their evidence is in the work they have been
Yeah.
doing consistently. Yeah.
So is David Ho is in Jurong East Bukit Batok, I
Oh,
think.
I see. I see.
Yeah. So I think I really wanted to end on that point. I think politicians do need people can see through fakeness and not being genuine, right? And you
Mm,
just have to embrace your character. You cannot pretend to be somebody you're not, right? You can
mm,
play
mm,
up your character, but I don't think you can pretend to be somebody you're not. Ariffin, it's been an absolute pleasure. I wish
mm.
you all the best. But I'm conflicted also in wishing you all the best because you're up against the PM. But one thing for sure, you have done a lot of good work for the media scene and even stepping up. You are what, 27?
I turned 28 in a couple of months. Yeah.
That is crazy. And Wake Up Singapore has been around for what, 10 years already?
10 years. I mean, started when I was Sec 4, lah, but that time
That
was just
is
a blog. Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Walid, before
Please,
you leave, can I just ask you one question?
please.
Are you gonna do because I heard some rumors that you're gonna do like a election night talk show sort of thing. Because if you are, wait, is it supposed to be under wraps or something? Or
No, carry on,
oh,
carry on,
no,
carry
no,
on.
are you gonna do it?
I am gonna do it. Yeah.
Okay, can.
Why?
And
Because you
no,
said
because
if.
I think all of us prefer watching this analysis as compared to.
Okay, so from what I've heard, I think the CNA ones are not bad as well, not the usual suspects
Oh,
this time
okay,
round.
okay. Oh, okay,
But
okay,
yes,
okay.
you will hear from us very soon in terms
Okay,
of the live stream, but we are going to do that. Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Arifin,
Thank you.
for
Thank
putting
you.
yourself out there. I really appreciate it. It takes a lot of courage. Again,
Yeah.
I
I
wish you all
hope
the
I
best.
hope I hope I make it in one piece.
You
Okay.
will, you will. Bye bye, Arifin. Bye. Take
Thank
care.
you. Thank you.